Hello everybody and welcome back to another Kings of War battle report. I'm Visibly Riley, and today we have Twilightkin versus Twilightkin. This battle was fought at 20 to 50 points and the scenario was Occupy. So first off, we see my opponent's Twilightkin roster. There were 3 troops of Gargoyles, followed by 2 troops of Shadows, 2 regiments of Dark Knights, one of whom have the Caterpillar Potion. Then we have 2 troops of Heralds of Woe, 1 horde of Dark Scythe Chariots with the Wine of Elvenkind, 2 Dark Lords on Black Dragons, and a High Priestess of the Abyss with Banechant 2 and the Inspiring Talisman. This is only 2205 of the 2250 points, but I already know where 15 of them are. The High Priestess was mounted, so there is that. Now, the other 30 points on the list, I'm not sure where they were. This battle was actually fought almost a week ago now. I'm not sure if you guys have been following, national news or anything, but I live out in the Seattle area and we've had a lot of snow. So I've had no power for 5 days, tree crushed my car. It's not been great, but here I am. So anyway, as for my thoughts on the army, the only things I really don't like, I don't like Wine of Elvenkind on chariot hordes, on any of the large infantry that get the -1 unit strength. It's not something I love. I get that it's a good item. It gives them nimble, which is great for letting them charge. It's great for letting them get out of tough area, and obviously it lets them move and shoot without penalty. So it's a worthwhile item. Personally, I don't like the loss of unit strength in an army like elves that have so little of it to begin with. So I'd probably swap that out. The only other thing that I'm not a fan of are the shadow troops. I couldn't even figure out what the other 30 points in this army were, or are, so I guess I would just take both the Shadows out, replace them with Heralds of Woe. I think Heralds of Woe are a significantly better unit at what Shadows do, but that's just me. I played Dark Elves for a long time back in the Warhammer days, and I'm sure any of you that played back then understand the power of Dark Riders, so I'm a big fan. I love them. As for my army, so starting out, it's gonna look a little weird. So I decided I wanted to try out a new list, which is something that I consistently do. I'm trying to get something down by the end of Masters. That way when people are coming back and really getting to 2019, I can just play one army for a while now. But I'm still working through the kinks. Starting out, I decided to listen to the US Masters, broadcast, and just offhandedly the other day, and I know that, I know Ashley, I'm not sure what her last name is, but she is merking for the West Coast, I want to say, and brought an ogre list, I want to say, excuse me, an ogre list, and brought a, what is it called, the blaster, the Red Goblin Blaster, and then allied in some forces of nature, and I looked at that and I was like, wow, that Hydra, I can already see the ideas that you put the Goblin Blaster by a Hydra, you can sort of force the wounds, because otherwise the Hydra's ability, many heads or whatever, isn't that good of an ability because your opponent gets to dictate entirely when it happens. So I went, that's an interesting idea. I bet I could do that a little bit better. Not to say that this list is better than hers in any way, it's just that concept can be taken up a notch, right? And so I immediately went, just slap a Goblin Blaster into the Gemini formation and kin, and things could get funny. So starting out, I have Gemini as the formation, which includes 2 Hydrae. Then I have a horde of crossbowmen with the Heart-Seeking Chant, a regiment of Reaper Guard with Dwarven Ale, 3 troops of Heralds of Woe. Yep, I love Dark Riders. Excuse me. It's unfortunate that I don't have any of my Dark Riders left from back when I played Dark Elves, but yeah, here we are. Then I also brought a horde of Dark Scythe Chariots. I brought Bezuzu the Vile, 1 Dark Lord on Black Dragon with a Chalice of Wrath, a High Priestess of the Abyss with Banechant 2, Inspiring Talisman, and the Mount, and finally my Goblin allies, which included a regiment of Fleabag Rider Sniffs and a Goblin Blaster. So I've already explained the idea of the Goblin Blaster, but with the rest of the army, it's pretty standard, I think, for kin. It involves a lot of their power units. I brought the Chariots. Chariots are just so good. The Crossbowmen, obviously an excellent unit. The Reaper Guard were because I had to get another unlock to get Bezuzu in there. The Reapers that the what are the Night Stalkers brought into it, I think are far, far superior. I mean, they can be inspired in kin. They have 25 attacks on a 3+ with crushing 1. They have stealthy. They don't have vicious, but 25 attacks versus 12? I know which one I want. So yeah, but I needed the unlock, and Reaper Guard are no slouches, and I still have some painted Executioners from back in the day, so I brought those. The Heralds of Woe are an interesting idea. I've been messing around with a bunch of weird elf lists recently, and actually after listening to that podcast, I know that Ashley was facing off against Adam something. Sorry, I'm pretty bad with names, but who, you know, brought an elf list that's a lot of what are they, Silver Breeze with the legendary Silver Breeze unit, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty solid. I last summer built, I don't know, like 40 what are they called, Illyrian Reavers, whatever the old fast cab for high elves were in Warhammer. I built a whole bunch of those, and I thought it'd be fun to run an elf list around them, so why not do it in kin? And that's about it. So yeah, I think it's an interesting army. It's got a gimmick, and I wanted to try it out. So here we see the end of deployment. Real quick, let's talk about what Occupy is. So Occupy, again, you have 3 secondary objectives first off. The first secondary objective is always in the dead center of the table, so that's one there. Then you take turns placing secondary objectives, starting with the player that won the sides, I want to say. And I know my opponent is... Sorry, just trying to find it. So the one I placed, so you placed this one on your side. I placed it right here. And my opponent's is placed somewhere in this area. I'm not exactly sure. I can't see it. It might be under one of his... No, so it has to be placed within 6 inches of the center line. So it's somewhere over there. I can't see it right now. And then secondly, you place a primary objective, each player does, on their opponent's side, and this one has to be more than 9 inches from the center, and then more than, I think, what is it, 3 or 6 from the sides. So I put mine on top of this hill, so that's my primary objective. My opponent placed his over here on the left-hand corner. And the way the primary objectives work is that you're trying to get your unit strength around them, but only I can score this one on the right, and only my opponent can score the one on the left, although we can both contest them. Now, the secondary objectives can be scored by anyone at the end of the game, and they are worth 1 VP, while the primaries are worth 2. So that's the idea. And as for the terrain, let's go through that real quick. So starting on the right-hand side, we have a height 6 forest. Then off to the left, we have a height 1 piece of difficult, so it's a graveyard. Again, this plays into... I don't think I've released that video yet. So anyway, we're playing around with more varied terrain as long as it's clearly a different piece. Like, I don't like the idea of having different hills that are different heights, because I think that just muddies the water and it makes it so the tournament experience can be a little off. But when one player goes hills are 2 and another player goes, well, this one's obviously 3. So instead you just make a different type of terrain. So generally speaking, we have water effects that are height flat, and now we have graveyards that are height 1. So anyway, that's the idea there. I forgot to mention that over here again on the right, we have a height 1 obstacle. In the middle of the table, we have a height, I think this was a height 4 impassable. Then off to the left again, we have another height 1 obstacle. Above it, we have a height 2 hill. And then to the right of it, we have a height 6 forest. Over here to the right, we have another height 1 graveyard. And then finally, off to the right, we have a height 2 hill. So pretty standard table. I know this was thrown together. It was poor, so Washington is not known for its snow, although it's going to be. Hashtag global warming's real, people. So, yeah, we got quite a bit of snow, and we didn't have a lot of time to set up for this game. Actually, the person who was lending us this space graciously sat out so I could play this. So thanks to Ryan, who's over here painting some stuff for Masters. But yeah, so the tables were set up by other people, and yeah, nothing else. Now let's move on to the armies. So starting with my opponent's army, we have the first troop of Heralds of Woe there, then the first troop of Gargoyles, Then right here we have the regiment of Dark Riders or Dark Knights that don't have any items. Then to the right of that we have our first Black Dragon. To the right of that we have the 2 troops of Shadows. Then we have the second troop of Gargoyles, which are behind the second troop of Heralds of Woe. Next to them we have our second regiment of Dark Knights, who have the Pathfinder. Or Dark Nuts, as you would call them in Zelda, which I always thought was weird. Then we have the starting of the Horde of Chariots with the Wine of Elvenkind. Then we have the second Black Dragon. Behind the second Black Dragon, or I guess next to it, is the Sorceress with the Banechant 2, the Inspiring Talisman, and the Mount, which you can clearly see here. And then finally we have the third and final troop of Gargoyles. So pretty standard deployment for my opponent here. Elves don't have a whole lot of choice in terms of, it's just not that big of an army, but neither was mine. And I think he did a good job of splitting them up, given that he is running a bunch of cav and I am running a bunch of shooting. So splitting up his targets, making it so I have to choose where my dedicated side is going to go. Pretty good plan. Excuse me. So now we go to my side of the table. I know these pictures aren't great, but again, it was just so much snow. So anyway, and it just made everything kind of loopy that day. Having to go to work, my car in Seattle Hills, nightmare. So starting out, we have our first troop of Heralds of Woe, followed by our second troop of Heralds of Woe. Then we have the third troop of Heralds of Woe behind that height 1 obstacle. Then to the right of them, we have the regiment of Reaper Guard. And then over here, we have the, slightly out of focus, the High Priestess with Banechant 2 and a Mount and Inspiring Talisman. And in front of her is the horde of crossbowmen with the Heart-Seeking Chant. Then to the right of them, the Tomb King chariots I use for chariots all the time. I swear, guys, I do have other models, but I just don't have them painted. So yeah, that's my unit of chariots. Then we have my regiment of Fleabag Riders, which behind them is my Black Dragon. And off here on the flank is the 2 Hydra and the Red Goblin, or I guess just the Goblin Blaster. So my idea here is, especially with the with the Hydra, is that right now I think only one of them is within 6 inches to be inspired. This one on the right isn't, but my opponent only has he has pretty limited shooting. So I guess he could just try to drop a Hydra right now, but there are easier targets to go for than them. So one is out, but the idea is I run with the Goblin Blaster forward and then the Hydra just sit there. And I don't want it blowing up this turn because it's in the middle of my line. So I actually should have this gap entirely closed, but I don't. So running a little dangerously just because my opponent has so much cav, especially on this, which is my left flank. So I want to make sure that I can charge, but I guess I do have a Black Dragon there. So it'd be kind of foolish for him to move too harsh. And, I'm not sure why this is here, but yeah, better picture of the center of the deployment, which is the archers, the chariots, and the priestess. And we move on to turn 1. So the kin win turn 1, or I do. So my kin win the roll off here. We do make sure that the Shadows Vanguard forward. I mean, he doesn't have a Vanguard forward, but he chooses to. And the pictures are going to get a little wonky. So I think this is actually after damage, or after movement, after damage. So starting on the left, you can see kind of that the Hydra have moved forward. They've just walked so that they can pivot, while the Red Goblin Blaster has run. So the idea is I want the Red Goblin Blaster to absorb some shooting and or a charge, blow up, damage the Hydra, who, if you weren't aware, the Gemini formation gives each Hydra a bonus to its attacks equal to the wounds the other Hydra has taken. So basically both these units will get plus 2d6, or around 2d6 attacks, because the Goblin Blaster is Pierce 4. So they get around 2d6 attacks from that, and then they get another 2d6 attacks from the other one. So it's pretty crazy. They can get so many attacks this way. And then, you know, if he doesn't charge into it or doesn't kill it, I can always countercharge and really start dealing with this flank, because I don't see this as like this is not a combination that is supposed to really, you know, mess up my opponent or really just kill a bunch of units. It's just a denied area. I'm just looking to make it so this left side of the table, which is my speed side, my opponent doesn't really want to move forward. Now, in hindsight, I should have put it on the right side of the table because that's where all the objectives were, and considering the other part of my army is so fast, I could have just repositioned back into here after the Hydra and the Goblin Blaster had done their work, but I didn't think of that, so something to consider for the future. At the end of my turn with my shooting, I ended up taking out one of the units of Shadows. I just killed them off, because almost the whole left side shot at the Shadows, while the right side shot at the Heralds of Woe right in front of the Gargoyles, which you can notice are now gone. So I killed them off with my Heralds, which is all three of these units, and then my crossbowmen, chariots, the fleabags, my dragon, and I think that's it, shoot into both of the Shadows. I kill one off and heavily damage the other one. I don't roll that well on the break. In fact, this 3 might be the break check, but I roll pretty poorly on the break here, but I do get a waiver, so my opponent is very limited on shooting for the next turn, which is great for me. Moving on to turn 1 for my opponent's kin, and as you can see, he decides to take sort of an interesting approach and just abandon the left side of the field. So the Heralds of Woe just turn like this. I later have him adjust his facing so he can actually shoot at some stuff, or maybe he doesn't adjust the facing, but so right now it just kind of looks like they're not looking at anything, so we can adjust that later. The Dark Knights just roll down away from everything. The Shadows pull back and deeper into the woods because they are wavered. The Black Dragon just flies to be central, while the right side of the field, oh, you can see finally the Gargoyles charge into my Goblin Blaster. I'm not sure that's such a great job, or it's such a great idea. Goblin Blasters are def 5. They're only 8-10 nerve, and if he kills it, I will get all those bonus attacks, but since he's abandoning the flank, I guess it's not that bad of a plan, as the Hydra will take a while to get into combat, and since they have regen 5, they'll slowly take those wounds back. So on the right side, my opponent just moves forward a little bit. You can see his Gargoyles have run to block my Heralds? I'm not sure what the point of that is. The Heralds can still just leave, as there's enough room for them to, I believe there's enough room for them to pivot and run. But yeah, I guess. I mean, it is threatening my crossbowmen, so there is a point to it. While the Pathfinder guys just roll up to be to have cover, so you know that's good. And the Chariots pivot a little bit to get better line of sight at the table, while the Black Dragon that was here along with the Gargoyles have moved to the right side of this forest, so they're about here to mess with my Heralds of Woe, since I have a unit there, you can see, and then I have another one there-ish. Great drawings. But yeah, that's the plan. And again, this is the end of the turn, so my opponent has taken some shots. I know this Black Dragon fired into my Reaper Guard, doing two wounds, which does not get a waiver, or the end of shooting, I should say. I don't think any of the other shooting does anything. I know the other Black Dragon misses with all 5 shots onto my Heralds of Woe, so that was kind of funny, especially as I don't have cover, as there are just Gargoyles in front of me, and the Dragon's height 4. So yeah, funny stuff there. And we move into this combat, and yeah, so I haven't removed the Red Goblin Blaster yet, but the Gargoyles do kill it off. They do 6 wounds to this Hydra, and then they do 7 wounds to that one, which means that cumulatively they're both plus 13 attacks right now. So each of these has 18 attacks as a monster to the front, which is, whew, that is brutal. On a better table, one with more forest, this could just be a game ender. But there are some easy ways to deal with it, which I think I'll cover at the end here. And we see this is the end of the turn, so you can see the the friggin' gargoyles are dead. I'm pretty sure we did this right. The Goblin Blaster, at least from our reading, when it blows up, it doesn't say you don't take nerve checks, even on your opponent's turn. But it was my opponent's turn, so I let him roll it. I'm not sure if that was right. Feel free to leave a comment if you know. But yeah, so it blows up. It does like 11 wounds to the gargoyles or something, kills them off. And then both the Hydra take the wounds I showed before. And we move on to turn 2. So turn 2, apparently I forgot to take a picture of the die. Maybe it'll come up later. But on the left side, oh, it looks like my sniffs took a bit of damage. Yeah, that's right. These Herald of Woe, if we walk a picture back, they can just barely see these sniffs. Or they can see them pretty convincingly. And they take their shots and do 2 wounds to me. So yeah, any wounds onto these guys is pretty good. It's a 10 to waver them. They have no inspire, and they're only a 12-14 total. So yeah, you could kill them off. But in my turn, they move forward. I'm not really looking to do anything but shoot into. I just want to fire into these Heralds of Woe, because if I can get a lucky kill there, that'd be pretty good. As I believe Heralds are an 11-13 nerve. And let's see, I have 14 attacks, so, you know, I get like 5-ish hits, 5-ish hits, 2-3-ish wounds. It's a long shot, but I could get it. The Black Dragon moves to zone out these knights have run away, so now they're either going to have to completely clear the woods and continue running to dodge my line of sight, or they're going to have to turn where they are and face me. So I've either caught them, or they're going to have to keep running, and you know, if they keep running, they're basically out of the game anyway, so, you know, it's a win-win for me. Although if they do stop there, I might end up charging into the train, because I don't think I can be very crafty. Although I will get a Hydra too, so yeah. It's messy. The Reaper Guard decide to just stay where they are. I can take a Dragon Charge, but I don't want to take, I think I think I haven't taken a picture yet, or I haven't finished my movement, because I know I move in such a way that with this obstacle, the gargoyles cannot land. So they can land corner to corner with me. So it might be where I am right now. But they can land corner to corner with me, but they can't slide in enough to actually have a flank charge. So just protecting my flank that way. Not really worrying about my crossbowman's flank. The only thing that they could shoot at were these gargoyles, which I'm not, ooh, that was a great arrow, which I'm not super worried about, as I have the Heralds of Woe plus a priestess who's right here to shoot at them. So I really want these crossbowmen to either finish off these shades or fire into this black dragon to get some chip damage going. So that's the plan. And there's the die. So at the end of 2, yeah, you can see this is my movement. So at the end of my shooting, I have put, my opponent just decided to put not put a die out, because the gargoyles have 8 wounds on them here. While this got rude. So I forgot to mention with the Heralds of Woe over here, they are just perfectly out of the line of sight of this dragon. So the dragon cannot see them due to the woods. Neither of them are touching it. These ones, these heralds can shoot at these gargoyles and do a fair number of damage. It's like 4 or 5, which is crazy, as I have 7 attacks on 4s and 3s, right, with vicious, and I do like 4 or 5 wounds. So pretty good rolls there. And then I shoot into these knights who are in cover, and I still do 4 wounds to them, so that's just getting naughty. My priestess, I think I did 4 wounds with both these, because my priestess does like 8 wounds here. It's just crazy rolling. So I do pretty well. I do like 3 or 4 wounds onto these heralds, so I do great there. And then my dragon plus the chariots, I believe, fire into this unit of shadows just to plink 1 damage onto them, because they were at double 1s for waver. So a 3, now they're at double 1s for break. So that's the plan. And here we go. So I got double 1s here. Not that relevant, as again, I only did like 3 or 4 damage, but it's still funny to take a superfluous double 1 roll here, or picture here. And yeah, then I double won these gargoyles. I think my opponent messed up here. I know they took 8 wounds. He's only marked 7, but who cares, really? So yeah, getting a double 1 there, that is very bad. And again, if double 1s made it so you couldn't charge, it would be fine. But since they can, they will definitely be getting into my crossbowmen, so turning off my shooting for at least 1 turn. That is a big negative. But with my other rolls, I do pretty well. Nothing happens to the Dark Knights, but I do clear out the gargoyles over here on the right. So while these middle ones got double one, these guys I just got real lucky on and killed them off. So it's pretty good in the end. Even with the double ones, I did so many wounds with my shooting. I'm not super worried yet. It looks like I even did a wound or 2 on this black dragon. So pretty good turn in my opinion. And we move on to turn 2 for my opponent's kin. And so, yeah, starting on the left, you can see that his Heralds of Woe just move around the table. They are using this hill to block line of sight for from my Fleabag Riders. I guess from the charge, which is smart. Fleabag Riders do a fair amount of damage on a charge, but I'd probably just shoot anyway. So yeah, I can't charge, but oh, excuse me. I'll have to walk over this hill if I want to shoot. And I forgot to mention the Hydra regen quite a few wounds. I think the one that was on 6 regen 1, but the one that was on 7 regen 3. So yeah, they're stripping those blaster wounds off. It's a good idea. We'll see if it works. But yeah, my opponent moves the heralds around. The black dragon goes for a cheeky little play here by running over to the obstacle, which I talked to my opponent about, as I just done it with my Reaper card, and I explained to him that yeah, if he goes like this, my black dragon, which he was worried about getting a flank charge, can't fit, so I cannot complete that charge, and my Reaper guard can't see because I needed to dodge these gargoyles, or at least in my head I needed to dodge these gargoyles. So yeah, this dragon's pretty well positioned to fight off my right flank. Unfortunately for my opponent, my right flank is crumbling. So, or I guess fortunate / unfortunate. Yeah, I kind of forgot these Dark Knights had had Pathfinder, and so when they get into me, this is a completely unfettered charge into some Heralds of Woe. Dark Knights have 18 attacks for some reason, and are just gonna work over that troop. So, yeah, they're probably dead. The other Black Dragon finally gets some wounds through with its Lightning Bolt 5, manages 2 wounds on my Heralds of Woe behind the obstacle, not that it mattered as I have cover for days, and gets the waiver. So, unfortunate for me, but not the end of the world. I think my opponent has just forgotten to... I know he regened more than 1 wound, but maybe he's just forgotten to flip the die again. It doesn't really matter. So, yeah, I think that's about it. You can see the gargoyles do charge into the flank of my crossbowmen, and that is, again, they could not charge into the flank of the Reapers, and my priestess is there's just barely not enough room to land there. So this was all a calculated plan to get double ones, as you do. So, anyway, the chariots just decide to right themselves. I think maybe they're the ones that did 2 wounds here? Anyway, it's not that many wounds. And here we go at the end of combat. Yeah, these guys just murder these heralds. It's like 15 wounds, something ridiculous. They get wiped out. And over here, I'm not sure. Yeah, oh, there we go. So it looks like my opponent did 2 wounds, so enough to turn off my shooting, but not enough to do a whole lot. And you can see the die has been turned now to 2. So he regens 6 of his wounds back. Pretty good. With the rest of his shooting, I don't think these heralds did anything, and I don't think this black dragon did anything. But anyway, at the end of turn 2, that's what it looks like. It's a little interesting. There's still a lot of kin on the table, as you might imagine in a kin versus kin matchup. But I think my opponent's kin are a little out of position, so it might be my turn to pounce for turn 3. So turn 3, and pounce I do. So starting on the left, I take a black dragon and just go into the Heralds of Woe. My thoughts were the dragon had no other charges. besides these Dark Knights in the woods, which this is a front charge. I would be hindered, and then he's not hindered coming back into me. It's not that likely to work. So I instead decide to take a detour to kill off these Heralds of Woe. Then I can just turn around every now and then, blah, 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 blah. So I can just turn around, face this way, and stare down the table while the Hydra just move forward to mess around with these Dark Nuts. So this Hydra right here is just out of their line of sight, and then this Hydra is just out of their charge range, because they will wreck me. Even on a hindered charge, I do have quite a few wounds still. You can see I'm down to 3 on this one, and like 2 on this one. Something, it's not great. But I still have a few wounds, and I'm not going to be inspired this turn. So little risky. Down in the bottom left, you can see I've taken my chariots and turned to face the table. The plan here is just to throw all of my shooting, so it'll be these Fleabag Riders, this unit of chariots, and it looks like that's about it. And just shoot into these Dark Knights and hope to drop them off the table. It's not likely. All of that has cover. Well, I guess they don't. Well, yeah, they have cover versus chariots. So yeah, he has cover, and I've moved, so it's not looking great. But that's the plan. I take my crossbowmen and get the countercharge on the Harpies again. That's kind of a disaster. And I take my Heralds of Woe, and I'm starting to realize I'm bleeding unit strength too quickly. So I take these Heralds and I just run. They are facing the wrong way. They should be facing this way because they backed up. Oh no, they are. Those are their tails. Oof, gray models, guys. But yeah, I just turn them with Nimble and then back up the 5 inches, I think they can. Although I think I did 4.5 because I thought they were 9 the whole game. You know, Warhammer things. So yeah, I just backed them away. This Black Dragon can definitely charge into them if my opponent wants it, but these guys are going to have to go over an obstacle if they want me. So, and I might even be out of range. Anyway, my Reaper Guard are still facing this way. So they're just making it so the Dark Knights here, if they charge, go into the front, and this Black Dragon can't just back up a little bit and be out of my threat. So that's the plan. And here, yeah, I did 4 wounds with those Fleabag Riders, so I don't trust these Heralds to stick around. And here is the end of the turn. Pretty brutal. Starting in the left-hand corner, the Heralds of Woe do get eaten by my dragon, so that's pretty neat. It's always great when things don't go disastrously. One of my Hydra has fallen off the hill, so that's less good. But yeah, as for good things, my crossbowmen do manage to kill off the gargoyles that were here. That's not too unsurprising. They have 20 attacks on 5 pluses, and the gargoyles already had 2 wounds, and they're an 8/10. So, managed to kill them off. The surprise of the night was that, again, there was a unit of Dark Knights here, and I shoot, 14 shots on 6s, and then 18 shots on 6s. So, not the best odds. Only 18 of those have vicious, but yeah, I do a crazy number of wounds, yeah, I do a crazy number of wounds, but that number is like 4. And then I roll very high on the break test, and even with this Black Dragon here, I just 11 to 11 dead. So feeling very good about it right now. I have the left side of the field pretty much locked up, but all of the tokens are on the right side of the field. So if my opponent felt like it, this is the time to just back away, I think. And we'll see what they do. Back away, they do not. So we see the other unit of Dark Knights, these are the ones that do not have Pathfinder, go into the front of my Reaper Guard, who have 2 wounds on them already. Then one Black Dragon, the Black Dragon that was right here, just pivots to face this direction and flies not quite 20, but pretty much 20 to make it so he's going after his primary objective. No one can see him right now. This Hydra cannot charge. My Black Dragon can see him, but, well, I guess he can see him, but is out of 20. So no repercussions for going over there. Pretty cool. And then this Black Dragon moves to retake the center of the field which I think is a good maneuver, although probably a little over adjusted since that's the front. I think I would be more like this, because like this, and then angled these chariots to be able like that, right? That way my dragon has very few places that it can land and threaten this dragon, while this dragon can then threaten my archers or this unit, right? It can threaten more things if it was facing my actual army. So I think that might be a small mistake. But the chariots move forward. They are currently, I think they're contesting my or they can contest my primary, and they're holding one of the secondaries. So right now things are looking pretty good for my opponent, and we'll see what happens in the shooting phase. Yeah, there's the charge, and again we're sliding out the back, but that's okay. And looks like we didn't skip the shooting phase, but I forgot to take a picture of it. So the chariots all fire into my crossbowmen. They manage 4 wounds, which is not enough to get a waiver. I think he even got the Bane Chant this turn to work, but anyway, no waiver. There is a waiver on my Reaper Guard, however, as they take 8 wounds from the Dark Knights. Again, those Dark Knights are just brutal. 18 attacks, even on 4s, you know, it'll be 18 attacks, 4s, and 3s with Vicious. So quite a few wounds, gets the waiver, although I do have Headstrong, so we'll see how that works out. The waiver is very nice for me, as I believe I have a flank charge with a Hydra, maybe, but who knows, we'll see. Turn 4. So turn 4, it looks like I didn't have a flank charge with the Hydra, just out of range. Poopy. But I do manage to pass my Headstrong, and I get a charge into the front, so at least I can strip them of Thunderous, so that's good. I decide to take this Hydra, and I move him way too far forward, sitting on 1 wound now after all the regen is said and done. Yeah, not the best plan. The Hydra should be basically fully in the woods, and then turned like so, I want to say, because if we roll back 2 pictures, yeah, it was right here, so I should be about here and then turned right like this. That way, if the dragon wants to charge me, it charges me in the front. It'll charge me in the front, and it'll be hindered. So just another mistake by me. It was getting a little late. This game did last till about 3 in the morning, and I was a little worried about having to drive. But anyway, with the rest of my moves, I take my archers and I just sit still because I'm going to shoot into the chariots. I move my Fleabag riders forward so they can also shoot into the chariots without obstructing the sight of the archers. My chariots turn to face this black dragon because they don't have a choice. I could not move in a way where I got out of its line of sight, so I might as well just take it in the front. While one of the Hydra moves over to possibly get a second charge. Now, I do move my Priestess better this turn. Last turn I made another mistake, which is I moved her out of Inspiring for my Reaper Guard, which is not what you want to do. I've been playing too many armies that just don't care about having Inspire, so Elves are not one of them in my opinion, or at least kin aren't, or footkin. So yeah, I move the Priestess here to have her 6-inch bubble radiate out to get my Hydra, to get my chariots, to get all this stuff. While the other Hydra is also within 6 of the Black Dragon, who is where this base is and not where the dragon is. That one I do like the move there. I touch the woods a little bit, so if my opponent's dragon charges me, it's the exact same thing, only on the counter charge I will not be hindered, so I'll get the first strike. I should probably have something over there that can also see it, but meh, it's okay. And here is the start of combat, and here's the end of combat. So at the end of shooting, yeah, you notice the chariots are gone. I'm not sure how lucky that is, right? So I've got 20 shots on 4, so I get 10 hits on average, and then I wound on 3s due to my Pierce 1 with Vicious. So, you know, I'm getting 8-ish wounds, right? So, 8-ish wounds there, and then the goblins are not the finest, but again, 5 hits-ish, 2-ish wounds. So like 10-ish 10-ish kills, which means it's an 8 rerollable, so I guess I did get pretty lucky there. No, I do have a lightning bolt. Yeah, I have a lightning bolt for the dragon. So again, I digress. It's not that big of a deal, but I do manage to kill off those chariots, which is a huge deal. I love that. Very good. Now, the Dark Knights, on the other hand, I do 7 wounds to with my Reaper Guard, which is very good. They only have 12 attacks, but I don't manage to even waver them, so they are ready to fight, I believe. And here is the bottom of 3, or the bottom of 4 for my opponent's kin. Black Dragon 1, the gray Black Dragon, charges into the front of one of my Hydra. The other Black Dragon, oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. This Black Dragon here, I waver because that'll show it. So it gets wavered and backs up, or that's a boxcar waver, isn't it? Anyway, I wavered this guy. He backs up a little bit just to see my Hydra, to see my chariots as well. And the priestess just moved forward, doing the best she can. So just within 6 inches here to inspire the Dark Knights and cast Bane Chant or Fireball, whatever she wants to do. And here's the fight of the century. And the whatever fight. So at the end of the round, it goes from bad to worse for my opponent. You can see at the top, the gray Black Dragon ends up doing 8 wounds, which is that's respectable against my Hydra there, but doesn't manage the kill, doesn't even manage the waver. So some poor dice there. And to make matters worse, he only does 2 wounds to my Reaper Guard, which is enough to get them a waver, but again, I do have Headstrong, so that might be nothing. And that's it. So, oof, a little messy. Turn 5. Turn 5, all the combo charges go on. So I decide I don't care about this dragon at all, and I might as well just charge into the Dark Knights to make sure they're gone. Now, I couldn't get everything I wanted, so I take my Black Dragon and go into the flank. I take the Reaper Guard, who passed their Headstrong, obviously, and go into the Dark Knights. I actually thought my Hydra had gone in as well, but no, this proxy base is for the dragon that doesn't fit anywhere. So this Hydra goes into the gray Black Dragon back there, and all of my shooting moves forward to get this High Priestess. Now, it's not the end of the world if I don't get the High Priestess, but I am worried about actually winning this game, because if the High Priestess kills off either of these 2 units, it's actually relatively difficult for me to get a large victory, as I need to protect the back objective here, and then I need... oh, there's the other secondary. It's right there in that field. So yeah, there's a secondary here, there's a secondary here, and I've lost the other one. But anyway, there's a secondary somewhere over here. And then lastly, my primary is here. So I need one of these speed units at least to be alive. And if she can pop one, the dragon can pop the other. It's just a mess. So I move forward to shoot at her. And my chariots plus one of my Hydra charge into the other Black Dragon. Now, this Hydra does have like 15 attacks or something, because this Hydra has... oh, no, it's got to be more than that. No, I think it's 15, because I think I'm down to 1 wound on this one. So I have 9 wounds on this one, plus 1 wound here is 10, plus 5, so 15 attacks. And then this Black Dragon already has 6 wounds on it, so I could kill it one shot pretty easily here. Yeah, and there's the charge there. We'll see. And this one, if this one doesn't go well, it might actually be comeback time for my opponent. I mean, if I double one it, but I don't. And here is the end of the round. Actually, I'm sorry, it didn't. This Black Dragon didn't have 6 wounds; it had 12 wounds. My opponent had forgotten to mark it until the end of my round. So yeah, has 12 wounds. I go in there. The Hydra actually disappoints, but that's just poor rolling. And the chariots plus the Hydra do just enough wounds to assure a roll, and it's like a 5 to kill it, and I get it twice. The Hydra up here was actually wavered. I forgot to mention that. So I had a wavered Hydra, couldn't charge, just didn't activate. And in the center of the table, yeah, you can see the Dark Knights are gone and the Priestess is gone. So almost everything's gone. And we'll see if we even get another turn. We do. My opponent gets a... is that a flank charge? No, it's a front charge. Sorry, my dragon is facing that way. So I believe my opponent gets a charge into my No, this is wrong. I'm sorry. I forgot to take a picture at the end of 5 for my opponent's kin turn. So yeah, opponent's turn 5, the only thing on the table for him is this black dragon right here, which charges into my Hydra and kills it. And then turns to face. I take the charge with my dragon into his dragon. I don't think that the Reaper Guard could make it. Maybe they could. I don't know. And yeah, turn 6. Yes, they definitely can. Yeah, his dragon had just turned. So, yeah, that dragon turns. I take the Reaper Guard and my dragon into it, and I move my army as far forward as I can to grab objectives. The Herald to Woe are a little blurry over here, but they're on the primary objective. I have my Fleabag Riders on one of the secondary objectives, and then I have the Reaper Guard on the second secondary objective, while the rest of my army just sort of meanders about. And we go for that kill on that last dragon, and here's the combat. It's pretty naughty. I mean, I've got what is it, 12 attacks on the dragon, or 10 attacks, plus the 12 attacks from the Reaper Guard. I do manage to get Bane Chant on the Reaper Guard as well, so they are crushed 2 this round. And boom, so I kill off that black dragon, and at the end of the game, it is a full board clear for my kin, taking out my kin. So my opponent was a good sport in this. He's definitely having a bit of a hard time adjusting to Kings of War, but I think the problem is mostly that he just doesn't play enough games. So it's hard to keep, strategy straight when you're game hopping, right? It's bad enough when you're army hopping. When you're game hopping, it can get messy. But at the end of the game, I have 1 secondary objective, I have 2 secondary objectives, and I have 1 primary objective. So it ends up being a 4-0 win, which I believe is not max points in blackjack scoring, because I didn't win by enough, but in the attrition score, it's crazy. I mean, the only things I lost 2 units of Herald to Woe, I lost 1 of my Hydras, so I have 1 Hydra down, 2 Heralds, and that's it. Yeah, that's pretty dirty. Yeah, pretty cool. Oh, and the Goblin Blaster is dead, of course. So, as for my thoughts on this army, I think the Goblin Blaster is pretty easy to solve. Again, it's a zoning tool, not a beat face tool, although the point is to zone because they're so good at beating face, right? So I think I need to figure out a way. I had the Black Dragon, which I guess is not appearing in this film anymore, but I have the Black Dragon right behind the Hydra, right? And so the Black Dragon's about whatever so about a little over 4 inches from the back of it to stay out of the 6-inch range of the Goblin Blaster, because the Goblin Blaster runs 10 forward, the Hydra follow it, and then or not 10 forward, but yeah, 10 forward, yeah, that's correct. Runs 10 forward, the Hydra follow it, and then the Black Dragon follows it, right? The Black Dragon wants to make sure it's not within the blast radius of the Goblin Blaster, because that would be really bad while still inspiring the Hydra. The problem with this is that if your opponent has a lot of shooting, and a lot of small unit shooting, so again, stuff like Heralds of Woe or Lightning Bolt Unicorns, anything like that can put a pip damage or 2 onto it. It's not just like, a horde of archers and a horde of chariots and that's it. Because if you're firing your horde of archers at my Hydra, meh, whatever. But what you really want to do is do just enough damage to force the Goblin Blaster to blow up on my side of the table, injures the Hydra, then you shoot them, do a wound or 2 each. They are a 15-17 and def 5 with regen, so it's they're relatively good. But with the Goblin Blaster damage, that's an extra 2d6 Pierce 4, right? So I can really mess myself up against a shooting heavy army. I'm not sure what I do with it then. Maybe I just abandon the trick, take the Red Goblin Blaster and put it by nothing. But yeah, I do like the army. I think it's fun. I might run something similar to it in, I know there's an event in March or May or something, and I want to play, another army, but I don't have that many models painted for solid lists yet, so I might do something like this. I hope you guys like the trick, and I hope Ashley forgives me for revealing her dark secrets. And until next time, thanks, bye.